Hello, my name is Justin Bright. Welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.8.1 in my next small step RP-1 career mode playthrough. And what we have here is just me doing some napkin math with the Gemini L, my lunar service module for the Gemini spacecraft. I wanted to see what it would look like if we could put solar panel wings on it to try to see if we could get rid of those fuel cells. I had it in my head that it was going to be prohibitively expensive to do so, and I think I am correct on that particular front. The way that I am looking at it now is the version with fuel cells costs roughly 15,000 well, not roughly, but 15,234 funds, and it weighs about 9.3 tons. And at that gets you about 15 days worth of power because of the amount of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen that I have stashed inside the procedural service module here. To duplicate that effectiveness, I've had to go about this monstrously huge with my Tech Level 1 solar panels. I do have Tech Level 2 coming up, so this math is going to change over time. But for now, it's ridiculously expensive to get panels big enough. So I've got kind of the 2x3s here, and they are big enough to get me 2.7 electric charge per second compared to 2.1 consumed. And based on, like I said, some basic napkin math, that should be enough. That 0.6 delta should be enough to refill the batteries in between, not the batteries, but to refill the batteries with the energy used during the night side during each day side, if that makes sense. So it should have enough surplus to use up the energy that has been used. I'm sure there's a formula somewhere, and if anybody has like a tool or something that will easily show me like what kind of power production delta you need to survive night side given a certain amount of time spent in darkness, I would love to see it. That would be incredibly useful for me. But this is what I've kind of come up with, just like I said, based on my quick little thing on math there. And the problem that you'll notice is that everything looks good, and it's actually about 200 kilograms lighter. And based on the efficiency reduction over time, it would be something like 30 days or so before we hit 80% efficiency, and then we stop actually filling up the batteries every single night or every single day to go through the nighttime, and then you start having a very slow reduction in our total battery capacity. So yeah, that's still a lot longer than the 15 days that you get out of the other module, but the problem is it costs literally twice as much. Each one of these solar panel wings costs almost 10,000 funds, which, I mean, is fine in the grand scheme of things, but this is why I'm just going to keep using fuel cells for now until solar panel technology gets to a place where this becomes more feasible. And yeah, if I wanted to do this with my Snap 9s, that would be even worse, really. It would definitely take something like the big multi-100 watt RTG, which is like, I think 2 nodes away, so I'm not even close to this one. And even then it would take like, yeah, about that many, which gets us to just a huge number. Like, that's 6 times the cost. So yeah, fuel cells are the way to get the massive bulk amount of power that you need without massive solar panels and huge expense. It's the cheapest way for now, but in the future, you can see we have some, I don't know, let's see this level 3 solar panel, for example. Okay, they're tiny and I can't actually make them any bigger, but they certainly last a lot longer. See, like 100 days we're at 131 days we're at 92% efficiency, whereas our level 1s are at 80% efficiency after only 30 days. So it takes a year to get to that level of wear on these Mark II panels, which is great. So I don't know, maybe something like, what is it, sun tracking level 3. Even that's still not quite enough. Even nominally, that's not enough. So yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, you need just big honking solar panels, even if they are nominally almost right. It would still take me 3 of these to completely match our power needs, and then deal with the wear over time. So yeah, I'm not going to be using solar panels on our Lunar Gemini. We will be using fuel cells, despite how fiddly and annoying they are. Alright, so here we are back with our Gemini 6 spacecraft, checking in on this errant vehicle. Flipping back to free camera, that's very nice. Just watching us rotate gently over the surface. And as a reminder, this is a nearly derelict spacecraft that I forgot to put avionics on, but is otherwise accomplishing its mission, which I'm going to cheat complete, assuming that they land safely. Because this is reset itself multiple times during the time that I have had this in orbit, but they've been in space for almost 12 days, and they are just about ready to come home. They still have full water because they are getting from the fuel cell. Electric charge is running out because, once again, I even just switched to this and came back. Darn faulty fuel cells. Yeah, so there we go. Power is fine. We have plenty of that. But we have 5 days of the liquid hydrogen and oxygen, tons and tons of nitrogen, plenty of water, 4 days of food. So it's time for them to come home with plenty of margin to spare, which really proves out the capability of this vessel. When you have a service module tank full of liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, wrapped in MLI layers, like 50 MLI layers, and then also wrapped in a fairing, that works out pretty good as far as maintaining your reserves of those cryogenic fuels. So that's pretty darn cool. Cool. But yeah, we are going to now try to bring this down, but like I said, because I don't have avionics, we are just going to have to run the thruster when we happen to be pointed vaguely retrograde. And we're going to want to do that at our apogee. So we're going to do that right around here in 40 minutes time. All right, here we are at our apogee, and you can see that I have indeed fixed, at least to a degree, the ambient light issues that I was having before. And there we just cranked it up a little bit so we can see even at nighttime. I don't know what the issue was last time, but yeah, it seems to be having resolved itself now. It's actually reacting to the sliders. But yeah, so actually just go. I'm actually pretty darn close right now, so let's just push, and we may have to get the rest on the next pass, which is just fine. So we're just going to warp around, and like I said, I'm just running this engine when it happens to be conveniently pointed in the direction of retrograde. We lost the spin at one point, but I seem to have gained it again between now and then, which is it's all just lovely. There we go, fire that up, and we are looking for about 60 kilometers, and there we go, 58 should work just fine. And we are now on a re-entry course with our Gemini spacecraft. So once we separate from our service module here, that is when we are going to be able to get control back, and thank goodness. So right before we get into, we touch down with the atmosphere, that is when we are going to be separating and all of that. But until then, we want to make sure that we have full everything and electric charge and everything else. And unfortunately, they have an uncomfortable ride until then. But I would very much like to bring Thomas Reed and Stanley Wood home. All right, we are not far now, so let's just make sure that everything that we want to have is in our tanks here. So we're going to get the food, get the water. Well, the water's not a problem. Transfer out the waste and the wastewater. Transfer in the power. Because, yeah, all of the futzing with power has made that an issue, of course. And there we go. Now we've got everything kind of stocked up in our command pod, and we can feel safe in removing our service module. So let's do that now. 3, 2, 1. Separation. Avionics are unlocking the controls. There we go. Farewell to our service module, which, despite all of its funkiness, has at least been working at keeping our astronauts alive, so long as I pay close attention to it. But we should, now we have re-entry control thrusters ready to go. And so when we get a little bit closer, once again, I can direct us to point surface velocity retrograde. So we are just coming down and into the sunrise, which is fantastic. All right, so surface velocity, and I'm going to try this again. I've been having trouble knowing that this is doing what I want it to do, but 0. Yes, because I want you to do roll. What I don't want you to do is pitch. Okay, so no pitch, please. Because I would like to do, once again, the, what do you call it? The descent mode. I would like to see how that works. And we are using a lunar heat shield for this re-entry because it didn't weigh that much more and it wasn't that much more expensive. So I figured it was better to just use the pre-built service module all together rather than try to pull it apart and have different modules for different things. Although I probably should just use the regular heat shield for orbital operations, especially when I'm dealing with the the space station that we'll be building soon. Kind of a neat shot. Yeah, so you can see our service module drifting away in the upper atmosphere. We are over Earth's surface, over the forest. Looks like we're over China, I think. Looks that way. Oh, yep, and we're coming up over why I can't see the geography there either, but let's. Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, I can't quite see the land masses through the clouds for whatever reason, but we're coming up on Japan here. And leaving mainland China. So what we're going to do, now that we are getting closer... All right, so we're coming in, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn descent mode on now. Let's first angle our pitch into the... what do you call it? Into our surface velocity negative angle. And this should reduce a little bit of our downward velocity, just based on the angle that the center of mass is hitting the atmosphere. And there we can hear our, oh, there, broke up there. Our service module is coming apart. See us tilting up a little bit here. There we go. That's the angle that I would expect in descent mode. Yep, so there we go. We're coming in, warming up a little bit, but you can see that doing that has just about arrested our vertical speed acceleration towards the ground, which is the whole point. It does go through a good amount of monopropellant fuel for whatever reason. I've got this, like, it should be 0. Oh, no pitch. Don't stress about pitch, please. Only do yaw. You then? No, still pushing? Okay. I have no idea why it's having so much trouble. And now it looks like we are heading back up again, so I'm going to turn descent mode off. Because I think that is going to even out... Yeah, because we don't want to actually leave the atmosphere again, but using descent mode, we can toggle it on and off to adjust exactly how our trajectory back in goes, and this gives us a little bit of lift, which keeps us in the thick part of the atmosphere, or the thin part of the atmosphere, for longer. but it's also not that big of a deal with this particular spacecraft. So we are going to just turn everything back to this and let the rest of this descent happen. I think we are good to go at this point. All right, I probably should have held my descent mode a little bit more, because that actually is probably going to knock Stanley Wood out. The scientist is not handling the G-loads that we are dealing with here. But we are now through the worst part of the reentry, and we should be just fine. But yeah, that would have, I think, if I would have held that a little bit longer, it maybe would have made that trajectory a little bit less ballistic, perhaps. Despite the practice that I've gotten with it, I still don't quite understand how these types of reentries work. So feel free to correct me down in the comments below. I do love to hear from you, and I do try to make corrections and retractions and things like that when I do things that are wrong and or stupid. And it doesn't bother me at all. I actually enjoy it, like I've said. All right, so there goes the drogue chute. Slowing us down from orbital velocity, having spent a lot of time getting our two astronauts good practice in orbital operations. See, our drogue is doing its job now, so it's time to kick that off and turn on our main parachute. There we go. Main chute deployed and reefed out to full expansion. We are drifting nicely down towards the ocean, somewhere near Japan. Well east of Japan, I guess. We're somewhere in between Japan and Hawaii at this point. But anyways, I try not to guess at geography when it's just a sea of water as far as I can see in every direction. But we are drifting now down the last 1.5 kilometers to the ocean. All right, here we go. The last couple meters before we touch down into the ocean. 300 meters to go. So yeah, this was a pretty successful mission, even though it was a little bit janky on pretty much all counts. But this has otherwise worked. And yeah, I'm not sure what the cutoff point is going to be for me for going between Gemini and Apollo. I think we might want to go recruit a new astronaut team to train on Apollo, because I've got 2 teams actively working on Gemini, and I just don't have time to switch them out if I want to keep doing our space planes. And there we go. We have flipped upside down, which is probably not great, but there we go. That's better. That's how it's supposed to float. It's actually supposed to float exactly like this in the water, which is really cool. Yeah, it sits like that, and then this hatch kind of pops directly off, and then you see the astronauts just chilling out in the pod. Maybe I'll grab a picture of that. There's a really cool one that I'm thinking of just off the top of my head, but yeah, we'll put that over there of some astronauts being captured, and I'll put a little caption here that tells you who they are. But yeah, that's what this actually looked like on splashdown. So there we go. Very successful mission. Let's keep moving on. All right, so we did recover the science of synergistic effect of zero gravity and radiation on white blood cells, Earth space low. So that is some astronaut science that we have finished there, which is great. Thomas Reed is all into it, having gained about 3 years worth of time before he retires, and Stanley Wood says 2 more years is good, which gets them both well into 1982, which I think will possibly get us on the next phase of the program, but I guess we'll have to see about that. There we go. Advanced to level 1, huzzah. I don't know how much that actually matters in RP-1, but it's still quite exciting. And we are going to... We've got a whole bunch of money again, and we're going to have a little bit more here in a second. As I go into the contracts, active contracts, orbital maneuver, flight with maneuvers and 2+ crew, we are just going to complete that because I am not fussing with it. It's just not happening. Crew alive and well after the mission. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, so Thomas Reed, Stanley Wood have about a month off now, well-deserved, and we don't actually have another vessel quite ready yet. So we have the Orb Lab 1, which is going to be coming up. And that is something that we will be wanting to bring astronauts along with pretty soon, but not in a humongous hurry to get that done. So we can get some other vessels or other missions underway while we're waiting for that. All right, so we've hired a couple more kerbals. Christine Adams, Elvira Lopatina, and Bruce Henderson will be my second Apollo crew. In addition to my previous one of Donna Smith, Edward Walters, and Inessa Bogolyubova. And they will be starting the training for the Apollo spacecraft here right now, actually. Let's just say courses, proficiency Apollo, boop, boop, boop. I could actually add Wanda Riley, my other engineer. Well, no, I'm going to leave her ready for Gemini missions still. So once I'm finished with that, then I will allow that or get that started. So there we go. That is our second crew that is beginning the training, and it's going to take so freaking long. But we'll have two crews sometime in the middle of next year. Yeah, I definitely should have thought about that a while ago, but, you know, is what it is. And this is... I feel like it just wasn't quite so dramatic in previous, for the previous tech levels, like Gemini. Even Gemini didn't take that long, and Gemini took a while. So, something to keep in mind for those of you following along or wanting to do this sort of thing yourselves. You got to make sure you're doing your training well in advance and think about hiring additional crews. Even at this level of the astronaut complex, I have 20 available astronauts. So you can, you know, get close to that number. It only costs you $50,000 each, which is not cheap, but you can get them training well in advance and then continue running missions with your current astronauts, as opposed to expecting to just roll them through the tech levels over time. All right, so we are here with the Pioneer Mars Orbiter 1, or Mars 1 Orbiter, whichever way you want to put it. But this is that vessel that was supposed to get our Mars orbit contract, but failed to because I never actually put it into the proper low Aparian orbit, which we will be fixing in about 11 hours. So let's just go ahead and make that happen. I'm pretty sure our electricity will be fine, even if we rotate around. I suppose I could just, you know, check. It'll be pretty close, actually, and that's not great. So let's wait a little bit longer. And then I'll adjust my my maneuver because it's changing quite a bit just because of all the putzing around I'm doing. So we'll cancel that. That's fine. But we would just want to get a little bit closer to our Aparian, which is, like I said, in about 11 hours. So pointing us at the sun as we are just dropping on down, and there's really not a whole lot super special about what we are trying to do here. And then now we are just gathering up the sun as much as we can, scooting directly underneath Phobos, and now let's go ahead and make our burn here. So this will be a well, I guess it won't really be much of a relay or connection satellite. It doesn't really have any way to well, that's not true. It does have, I think, yeah, it has a Tech Level 2 UHF antenna on here, which is enough to reach approximately nothing. So it was really just for the lander, but the lander exploded. So there's that. What I can do is I can just change my apoapsis to 16,850 kilometers. How's that sound? There we go. So just execute that, and that is all we really need to do for this mission to hopefully get this contract completed. So yeah, I'm still thinking very seriously about what I'm going to do about my Mars landing contract. We have another conjunction coming up. Not conjunction, that's not the right word. Another transfer window coming up Oh, is this thing off balance? I feel like I had the same surprise last time I did this, but I guess we're a little bit off balance here. But the RCS is compensating, and thank you, MechJeb, for all that. Anyways, we have another transfer window coming up, but it's not going to be for 561 days, which is approximately an eternity in with the number of missions and the technology and everything else that I've been doing. I'm planning on sending some stuff there, but it's probably not just going to be a lander. I'm probably going to have to send a whole fleet of stuff if I want to prepare for a possible crewed landing on Mars someday in the future. I'm probably not going to nail it on the next transfer window. We're probably just going to be getting the moon done by then. So yeah, it's not 100% clear exactly what that's going to look like. My plan for the future on that. But that is kind of my long-range goal, is I plan to be going to the moon and then going to Mars. And so we're going to want to send a whole bunch of hardware in the direction of Mars as soon as we are able to do so. So that is something that I will be thinking about quite seriously then. I'm annoyed now because this says launch a new vessel, and I know this is the vessel that I launched specifically for it. So I'm gonna force complete this one too, because I don't know why this is not giving me credit for being a new vessel or being the vessel that I launched. I think this might be another victim of me updating my save. So like, don't do that quite as much as I do. I've slowed down quite a bit on grabbing the latest masters every week, so I'm trying to not break my save so much, but. So Mars Orbital Science Probe, I know that this is what we sent to do that, and so this should have worked. Like, I had that new vessel flag toggled on this one before. Congratulations, we can continue to gather data from the new satellite. Fantastic, that got us a good amount of cash, which we are saving up for more big upgrades. I'm not sure if I should be spending that on... Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Should I be spending all that money on... KCT upgrades, or saving up for the last level, or not last level, but the next level of my research facility and vehicle assembly building? Like, I'm really not sure what the right move is at this point in the game. So yeah, this is pretty much the end of what we need to do with our Mars orbiting satellite. We are pointed at the sun. We do not have signal until just now. Now we have just seen Earth. There it is. We are getting good signal. Power should be good once we do not have the avionics turned on. So just to be clear, I sometimes shut off the avionics here, but when you unload a vessel and go back to the Space Center, it counts everything that has avionics active that can shut down as shut down. So you don't actually need to manually shut them down every time. I just like to do it for the same reason that, like, when you see the autosave, you also manually save a couple times. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same sort of weird compulsive thing. It doesn't actually mean anything. But it also, if you shut it down the avionics, you can see what your power situation looks like with them off. But you don't need to shut it off, is what I'm saying. But yeah, that is the end of what we are doing with this vessel here. I hate all of the... force completing that I'm having to do, but now that I'm done upgrading my save, I think that should slow down quite a bit. But this is something that, like, I know that we had this. Like, I know that this was the right vessel for this particular launch, and I know that what I didn't do was the Mars landing, right? So I know that's all been... I know that's what this is and what we should have going. I'm just hoping that none of my other contracts got messed up. But that is where we are going to leave this particular vessel. So let's just turn off. Oh, it's already turned off. So there we go. That's good. And we will just leave this here as a relay that can be used in orbit of Mars until the solar panels go out. All right, we are rejoining the flight of Johnny Flores and Lisa Kim on their way over to the orbit of the moon. We are just an hour away from entering into that sphere of influence, and then you can see the little wibbly curve here that our orbit is going to do if I don't do anything about it. So I'm actually going to just turn that off, and we are just going to see what happens when I get into this orbit. So yeah, here we go. This is fantastic. We are basically recreating Apollo 11 at this point. Not Apollo 11, that's not right at all. Apollo 8, of course. Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, Bill Anders, the first humans to orbit another world, another body that was not the Earth. And that was indeed what Johnny Flores and Lisa Kim are slated to do. Johnny Flores, my intrepid X-plane pilot, has graduated to the Mercury program and then to Gemini, and that has brought him now out to the moon, where they will be performing the first orbit. Close that. All right, so we have flipped into the sphere of influence of the moon. It's still fairly dark, so let's just make sure that our ambient light is cranked. See, it's just not working for this particular vessel. You see, I don't understand what's happening. And you can see that it works on our kerbals down here, but not on the vessel itself. I don't know why that is. Yeah, it's not even seeming to like respect the what do you call it? The ambient lighting that everything else has. Like, because I turned up my default ambient lighting in the Kerbal Space Program menu fairly high to try to compensate for this, and it worked for everything except for this craft. So yeah, I have no idea what's going on with that. But we can turn and we can kill our rotation and, you know, be a little bit more in the sun as we get going here. So let's take a look at what we have. We have a whole bunch of processes and not a lot of science. And another thing we don't need is any kind of EVA science. So we can EVA, but we don't actually need to in any way. But I was hoping this debris was going to come hit the moon, but I guess not. So yeah, what we are looking at is our trajectory has shifted slightly so that we are going to impact the moon. Not super great. So let's check out the parameters of our contract, because we are finally going to do first crewed lunar orbit, and this is going to be a big, expensive one. So we need a low orbit. We need an apolloon of below 500 kilometers and a paraloon below 200 kilometers. So we need it to be a very close orbit indeed. So we're gonna say 140, 150 is probably just fine. That's what we will aim for. So let's do that now-ish. Hear us firing up the RCS jets to adjust our trajectory just slightly. And we have an AJ-10 Advanced, which allows us to we have unlimited ignition, so we don't really have to worry about that. I'm having a little trouble like overcompensating or something. I'm not sure what the deal is here. It's a little bit wigglier than I remember it being, but anyways, we are pointed roughly in the right direction at roughly the right time, so we are just going to fire this up. There we go. We got the vast majority of it done there, so I'm going to just kill rotation, and we are going to just make this happen now. This is super wiggly, and I do not know why. Okay, so 150 kilometer paraloon. Fabulous. So now I would like to change my apolloon. We need to bring it down all the way down below 500 kilometers. So we need to really honestly orbit the moon. So within that parameter is a 480 kilometer apolloon, and we will plan to do that just to try to minimize the amount of energy that we are spending, although we do have plenty. So fabulous that we have that. Yeah, there we go. Just the tiny blue marble, the tiny distant blue marble of the sun, or of Earth. Oh, it's doing the thing where half of my RCS jets are just not firing for some reason. Ah, I see what the problem was. All right, so I've reloaded my game in the hopes that it would fix a couple of my issues, but I only managed to fix one. And what I did was I just had to realize that this is attached at a weird spot. Like, I think this is attached literally to this decoupler, and this decoupler has crossfeed, which is what I thought the issue was, but no, it's actually this interstage here did not have crossfeed, and that meant that it was not pushing fuel from inside this service module tank to the that decoupler and then back up here where that is actually connected. So yeah, now that I've actually traced that out, we do have all of our RCS, which means this vessel should be much more nimble. Which is lovely. So now we are able to turn ourselves around, and look at that. That's going nice and fast and zippy and all that stuff. Little blue marble of Earth in the far background as we try to recreate the mission of Apollo 8, although I'm recording this almost at Halloween time as opposed to around Christmas, so I will not be confirming or denying the existence of Santa Claus on this mission, unfortunately. But yeah, really nothing more to it but to go ahead and make this burn happen. So we're warping down, and we're probably going to try to recreate at least a little bit. Batteries are getting low. 5L batteries are low? Uh-oh. Hold on. Stop. Abort, stop. Everybody is dying. CO2 poisoning is happening. I reloaded the game, and I forgot to do this. Ugh. Okay, now we have power again. And hopefully we will be able to scrub off that extra CO2, which built up while I was time warping down to the node. Ugh, pain in the butt. Okay, yeah, CO2 level is going down. We have scrubbed off that bad bit of atmosphere, and we are regaining our power, which is fabulous. And here we go. We are preparing for our burn that is going to insert us into orbit around the moon, which is just so very exciting. This is going to be a big paycheck for us, hopefully, and also a big milestone that is going to lead us towards our first crewed moon landing. As we make this burn, I'm not 100% sure if I want to do the moon landing with Gemini or Apollo. I know a lot of you have been asking which one that I'm going to do. And the answer is basically that I have the capability to do Gemini as a lunar orbit rendezvous mission right now, which, if you're not familiar, that was a proposal for Apollo and Gemini, honestly. That was something that they've thought about doing with both. And the idea is you launch individual pieces of the spacecraft. So you would launch the Gemini service module, which would be this exact thing, because this exact thing has demonstrated all of the capabilities that this mission architecture would need. And you put that in orbit around the moon. But you put that in orbit around the moon after you put an uncrewed lander around orbit of the moon, and that lander would have to be basically the same thing as the Apollo LEM, which is able to go down to the lunar surface and then launch back up and then rendezvous with a Gemini spacecraft. So if I could do that, and if I could figure out how to transfer from one to the other, I would, because you cannot do that with this docking mechanism. Like, this does not allow crew to pass through. This only allows coupling and also I think fuel transfer. So you can't do that. So that is a limiter on this, but that's a relatively easy one. It would just have to require us to change the way our mission architecture looks, or we would just require an EVA where they just dive out of the lander and jump into the Gemini spacecraft. We could use, instead of the big LEM, we could use like a smaller one-person lander, perhaps. I've also toyed with the idea of meeting up with a space station in lunar orbit. So yeah, there's a lot of options that I could do right now with current architecture without even getting to Apollo. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or if I'm going to continue on towards Apollo level architecture and doing the Saturn V. Let me know down in the comments what you think about that, about both of those proposals. Direct descent, where we are sending a Saturn V with a LEM and the Apollo architecture out here, or do you like the idea of Lunar Ornament Rendezvous a little bit better? Just let me know what you think. I still haven't decided myself. Part of it is my decision is going to be kind of made by the timelines, because like I have more than a year until I get that done, and I'm almost ready. Like, we're orbiting the moon. Like, Apollo 8 was not that long behind Apollo 11. You know what I mean? All right, so we are now in orbit, and we are doing exactly the Apollo 8 mission, because just like this, they stayed, those 3 astronauts in the Apollo spacecraft stayed in orbit of the moon for 20 hours before coming home, which was about 10 orbits. And their orbital parameters were not dissimilar at all from what we have here. So they had a about 185 kilometer circular orbit around the moon. No, I'm sorry. They had 110-ish kilometer circular orbit around the moon. I was reading the orbit they had around Earth, I guess. I'm not 100% clear. But anyways, that is kind of how they did that. So this is pretty much exactly Apollo 8. And yeah, it was full of firsts, such as being the first time that humans were bound by the sphere of influence, by the gravity primarily of another body other than Earth. So yes, indeed, about partway through this flight, most of the way through this flight, Johnny Flores and Lisa Kim were more bound by the gravity of the moon than by Earth, which is the first time that it ever happened to humans in history. And we are going to be out of contact from Earth for the first time as well very, very soon, as we rotate around, flying directly over the surface of the moon, up into a little bit of the higher part of our orbit. We are rising up, and now we are out of contact. For the very first time, we are blocked by the moon. Our signals are blocked by another body between us and our home. As they were flying over the moon, James Lovell took it upon himself to give some description of the terrain that they were flying over. And he said, the moon is essentially gray, no color. Looks like plaster of Paris, or sort of a grayish beach sand. We can see quite a bit of detail. The Sea of Fertility doesn't stand out as well here as it does back on Earth. There's not as much contrast between that and the surrounding craters. Craters are all rounded off. There's quite a few of them. Some of them are newer. Many of them look like, especially the round ones, look like hit by meteorites or projectiles of some sort. Langrenus is quite a huge crater. It's got a central cone to it. And the walls of the crater are terraced, about 6 or 7 different terraces on the way down. And he spent a lot of time describing the terrain of the moon, because one of the things that they were trying to do on Apollo 8 was reconnaissance, to try to figure out what a landing site might look like for the future of the Apollo program, where they were trying to figure out when and where they could actually touch down safely. I think I may have missed it this time, but we are now back in signal with the Earth, which is just fabulous. So yeah, we are just going to be orbiting around a total of 10 times. And this is quite a momentous and exciting mission. Unfortunately, I don't have any science to show for it, but the contract is going to be worth it. And there's my best take on the iconic Earthrise photo that they took from Apollo 8. William Anders took that. And it was just an iconic, beautiful photograph of the moon, or of the Earth rising above the surface of the moon, and the way that the moon rises above the surface of Earth. from their perspective anyways. So yeah, that is about that for this, I think. Other than just waxing poetic about this mission, I'm not sure there's much else for us to do. So let's take a look and see how we're doing. We are slowly regenerating some power. It takes a long time to fill those batteries after you do a big dumb like I did. But we have another 15 hours to go before we can send our astronauts back home, which should not be any kind of problem at all. And there we go, our orbits have been completed and our life support is still operating nominally. Doing just fine in every way, and we are going to hopefully get home with plenty of buffer both in fuel and in supplies, which bodes very well for future operations of our Lunar Gemini spacecraft. Alright, so now we're just trying to get ourselves home, so I am just kind of manually doing this. I don't think there's any real reason to be weird about it. There we go. We got an Earth perigee of 148 kilometers. So a reminder, we need to get that to about 160. Not 160. We need to get that to 60. So there we go. That's about what I would like to get to, and where that happens is really not much of a concern for me. We should be able to make this work. All right, so we have fired up the engines and we are partway through our burn to head back home. Once again, no Christmas broadcast here, just the hopeful completion of this contract. This service module is quite capable and has a little bit more fuel than we're going to actually need here. I'm maintaining that level of fuel with all the weight that entails because I want to make sure that this thing has the ability to do like rendezvous and docking and other maneuvers in orbit other than a simple orbit and return. I would like it to be able to get into particular orbits and change its orbit and change its inclination and all of those things. So that is something that I would like to leave it nice and capable so that we can hopefully use this for a good many missions over the next couple of years until we transition over to the Apollo spacecraft. And yeah, finally, this means that we are clear on the vast majority of our missions. The only thing that I have left in the hopper right now is the Martian moon hopper. In 20 days, the initial set of scans should be complete for science sake, and we will be moving on from there and maybe jumping around to get more biome science, or we will be heading on down to Phobos to make sure that we complete both contracts. And there we go. Burn complete. We are on our way back home. Our perigee is a little bit too low, so I can just fix that. There we go. 60 kilometers, and we are all set. But we are rotating, which is not super great. All right, but yeah, so we don't have really anything else happening. So we are leaving the moon behind. Farewell, moon. Nothing else to be done here. All we have left on the contract is return home safely. But yeah, so coming up next is going to be when we are going to be putting up a space station, so I'd like to do that. And it's really time for us to just ramp up towards our first moon landing. And once again, that's something I'm looking for your feedback on what architecture you'd like to see me do that with. If you want me to just kind of get it over with in Gemini, that's fine. If you want me to try something else, maybe more exciting, that also seems fine. So just let me know what you think. And I'm hoping to get moving on that fairly soon. I've unlocked everything I need to for the Apollo spacecraft, so that's good. It's just a matter of actually getting astronauts trained for it and then actually building a launcher that is capable of bringing it out to the moon, because even our mighty Paladin 3 is not even close. It's a chonker. The Apollo service module is an absolute chonker, so that is something that we would be need to be a little bit more careful about how to get that going. So yeah, I could, in theory, burn about 1,200 meters per second to slow us down, but I just don't think that's necessary. We are 6 hours away from our interface with Earth's atmosphere, and I'm just planning on doing this normally and doing the same kind of descent mode landing that we did with our previous Gemini 5. But there we go. We are coming up, and I'm slowing down our time warp a bit so that I don't skip through the atmosphere, because that would be just a tragedy. But yeah, so with just those couple of missions that are coming up, it's finally going to give us a chance to kind of skip through a little bit of our of the technology, like actually time warp a little bit forward to get more technology, get more stuff, get things built. I've got a couple big missions coming. I've got a Jupiter and a Ceres transfer window both coming up very soon, and I don't know if that's something that I want to launch now or if I want to wait until I have better communications technology. But it's a possibility, and I know that those launch windows will be coming up again eventually, but I would love to do more exploration of the outer solar system, but it is going to require a great big launcher to throw stuff. The Titan 3E, I think, is up to the challenge, but like I said, we want to make sure that not only we have that, but we also have the communications that we need, and it drives me absolutely bonkers how the ambient light is just not working. It's just not doing anything. I wonder if this engine lighting relit is just breaking my light, because I don't feel like I had this problem before. So yeah, I may adjust my mods after this, after I wrap up here, and see if that doesn't fix it, because this is not good. Like, this is not a fun thing, having just a black screen. All right, so we are at 300 kilometers. We are just minutes away from our interface with the atmosphere. I am now going to, we are going to point ourselves normal, or at least partway in that direction, before we do the thing. Oh, we gotta do the thing. Gotta do the thing! Okay, service module. Alright, the service module needs to take the stuff. So we want in, we want in, we want... Oh, wait. Out. Out from the service module. Out. In with waste. Out with everything else. I don't have any power in there, interestingly enough. How are we doing on electricity? Are we okay? We're mostly okay. I think a lot of that is in the, what do you call it? I think it's in this avionics? Yes, it is. Out. There we go. So we're just charging up our Gemini command pod. I don't think this is actually necessary, but it makes me feel better to do this just in case something goes terribly, terribly wrong, which is known to happen. So there we go. That is all set. So now we are going to separate our command pod, and as we come away, surface velocity negative. Ugh, it's so dark. So very sorry about that. I honestly wish I could do something about it, but there's literally nothing that I can do at this point. All right, so we are down in the atmosphere, and I am just getting ready to flip on our descent mode when we hit about 100 kilometers. It looks like we are rolled improperly, which is just wait, we want this and not that. There we go. There we go. That's good. I don't like how this has stayed right there, but that's my own fault for not making that go further off to one side. All right, we are below 100 kilometers. Time to turn on descent mode and hope that this doesn't disintegrate too much directly on us. Good lord. Ooh, terrifying. All right, so there we go. We are now set up. Ooh, hold on. Put this away, for goodness sake. And there we go. We are now heading in at a blistering 10 kilometers per second. But once again, we have the lunar heat shield. We have the lifting trajectory. execute this properly, please. There we go. You can see our lift come up, and you can see our vertical speed is reducing because we want to stay up in about this part of the atmosphere for as long as we can. And if I'm really clever, I could even like flip over to push us back down into the atmosphere once it gets pretty low, once we start going up too much, so that we can kind of maintain exactly what our trajectory is. All right, so we are getting to about 60 kilometers, and our vertical speed is slowing down. And we are rolling. Maybe we're rolling? We're not rolling at all. We are making no attempt to roll. It is doing nothing. Okay. Descent mode off. Perhaps that will help. Because we're going up, and I don't really want to go up at this point. Wait, are we rolling now? There we go. Okay. Descent mode back on. And this will push us down into the atmosphere to keep us from ascending too much. So you can see our vertical speed is now reducing. And there we go. That's how you, I think, as I understand it, that is how you basically keep yourself in a narrow re-entry corridor that keeps your G-forces relatively low, and keeps you from going down too fast, and also keeps you from going up too fast. But yeah, you can see our apogee is reducing down to almost nothing. And yeah, looking pretty darn good if you ask me. If you're really like super pro, keep an eye on our thruster fuel, because for some reason it's still pushing really hard to keep us at this orientation. Even though this is off. Should be off anyways. Seems to have helped a little bit maybe. Our vertical speed is now going back down, so it's time for us to go back to 0. And there we go. That is just all for the comfort and safety of our astronauts on this lunar return trajectory. But yeah, if you're like super pro with using descent mode, you can actually make it so that if you turn just sideways, just like 90 degrees instead of 180, you can actually turn the spacecraft, right? Because you've got that lift pushing on one side of the spacecraft that would then direct you in one way or the other. And I think the Soyuz, I've heard, uses that method to direct it towards its intended landing site. All right, we are just about out of stuff, but we have stayed between 60 and 70 kilometers for a really long time and scrubbed off just a ton of velocity, which has made this whole process much, much safer. So at this point, I think it's safe to actually just leave this on until the last moment here. And then once that is off, then we can turn off our descent mode as well. Turn everything off, because now we are out of re-entry thruster fuel, so it is now just up to our current trajectory, and hopefully it will not go down too much. Actually, if I just turn that on and just leave us at this point, it should slow down our descent as we are still going down. But we are not able to really hold this position super, super well, so I just need to keep an eye on that. But yeah, that's how I understand it. So like I said last time I was doing this just a moment ago, if there's any big things that I'm missing or anything that I'm mischaracterizing, please let me know so that I can correct that, because I'd rather be correct about this when I'm conveying this information to you guys, because I'd like you to be able to go on and do this yourselves and enjoy playing RP-1 the way that I do. Yeah, so we've used about 30-ish, a little bit less than 30 units of ablator, and just look at how long this we have just been up in the atmosphere for so long, just scrubbing off this velocity, and we are now getting up to a point where we are getting a fairly high number of Gs, but we're already down to under 3,500 meters per second. That's getting just better and better. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're at 5 Gs now, which is a pretty rough ride, especially for as long as it is. But given that it didn't go so high that it nearly made our scientists pass out, like that didn't happen at all this time because I was more careful with how we did our re-entry trajectory. So awesome stuff. I'm stoked that worked out. But like I said, I'd rather be right and convey that information to you because this is not like a tutorial series or anything like that, but I do like to pretend a little bit. All right, so now we are coming down under Mach 3 or so. So we are safe on our return back home. Our G-forces are decreasing, and we are getting down to a point where we can finally pop our parachutes and all of that. So the excitement is mostly over, thank goodness. And we are just waiting for the triumphant return. It looked like our parachute finally popped, which is great. Slows us down quite a bit. And like I said, I will look into getting this darkness fixed. I think I'm going to yank engine lighting relit because that's clearly not working for us. Maybe that's the issue, but there's obviously some troubleshooting to be done. All right, and now I have deployed the main parachute. Seems like we just got done doing this. All right, just a couple meters, 100 meters from the surface. It looks like we are landing in the desert somewhere, which is not super great. That would be a very dangerous sort of place for an actual capsule to land. But that, I mean, it's fine. Like in RP-1, recovery is very well abstracted, which is probably for the best, really. Just 100 meters away, a couple more, and then we will be touching down and seeing if everything is good and everything has survived, and we see Jupiter, Mercury, and Venus, bright stars in the sky reflecting the sun's light. And touchdown! Contract complete. The crew is alive and well after the mission. Congratulations. 1 million funds. Johnny Flores and Lisa Kim have done it. They have orbited the moon and returned safely home. All right, Johnny Flores showing his resilience, plus 822 more days because orbiting the moon is pretty damn exciting, I should say. Lisa Kim, another 3 years out of her. Johnny Flores, a little more than 2 out of him. So he's going to be with us until 1979, no earlier than that, which is great. So 5 more years in the space program for you, my friend. Hopefully I will keep you along for even more exciting missions because it's kind of fun having a legacy astronaut or something like that. And Lisa Kim doing quite well. And they have advanced to level 2, whatever that means. All right, so with that mission completed, we have 2.6 million funds. And that has actually unlocked a crewed lunar orbital mission with at least 1 crew, interestingly enough. Only 1 crew member needs to be on board, but we can basically repeat this for nearly 1 million funds, pretty much as often as, up to twice, which is kind of fun. Completing once unlocks the Lunar Space Station contract. Well, that's exciting. Let's definitely do that. We can do that within a year, I think. So let's definitely do that. That's damn cool. Also, I'm looking at first human moon landing, and it says 5 years is how long we have until that expires if we were to take that. And we would need to plant a flag on the moon and return them safely to Earth. And I'm wondering if we don't just pull the trigger on this. Because that would give us 5 years to get this done, and I'm confident. I am very confident that we can do this within 5 years. We have the technology to do it right now, I think. We only need to have 1 crew member on a new vessel to land on the moon and return them home. And I think that there is no reason that we can't get this done within 5 years. So, as terrifying as the failure penalty might be, I think that we are going to end this episode by accepting the first human moon landing contract. Yes, indeed. We are ready to go. I have 8 million funds, which means it's time to really open up some contracts real quick. Or not contracts, it's time to build some stuff. So I don't think that I can't afford to do both of these upgrades right this second, but I can definitely get either the vehicle assembly building or the research and development center out and moving to the next tier. And I'm thinking that I want research and development because that's where I've been kind of stymied, is having that, and then soon after that, I want to do the vehicle assembly building. So I guess that answers the question about what I should do with all this cash. I'm just going to make it happen, and boom, 4 million into that upgrade, which is going to take just 156 more days. Fabulous. We have a 1,500 ton launch complex that is being built. And I'm wondering if we don't now build the 2 million fund unlimited launch pad so that we just have all of our bases covered. Yeah, I think that might actually be a good idea. Well, maybe not yet. I'm going to hold on for just a second to see if I actually need the unlimited pad. I got to do some math and toying around with some of the future designs to see what that's going to look like in the future. But yeah, I think we are ready to start our run up to landing on the moon. And yeah, holy crap, that's scary. But we're in it to win it. Space is hard. Let's get to it. And that is where I think we're going to leave this episode. If you enjoyed this one, please let me know what you think down in the comments below. Like and subscribe, tell your friends, all that, and I will see you next time.